Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. What is up? Welcome back to Big Fat Five, a podcast financially supported by Big Fat Snare Drum. We're back with a normal episode. I never thought this day would come. So this week's guest is the Forrest Rice. He's an incredible drummer with a seemingly endless amount of creativity flowing through him, as shown with the amount of projects he's involved with, which we do get into at the end of the chat. But for a quick intro, his project WØLFY has a lot of exciting things coming up. He's also drummed for Covet, Standards, and the Illustrative Violet over the last few years. But before listening to this episode, I suggest you go check him out. I've linked his Instagram in the show notes, and it will give you a little more context to this chat. And he's just fun to watch and listen to. He's great. So thanks for being on the show, Forrest, and it feels good to be back. So here are the 5 records that helped shape Forrest Rice into the drummer he is today. Cheers. I'm assuming maybe you've seen Nelson Drum Shop's drum showcases, and most recently Pro Drum Hollywood has been doing their Groove of the Day. So if I gave you some drumsticks and said, I'm going to film you for 30 seconds, what would Forrest play?
It'd be like the Forrest beat. The one that's like...
Totally.
Like, I don't know what it is about that beat, but... any kind of halftime beat with lots of groups of 3 is something that I've always heard. And when I go back and watch, like if I were to look at old clips of me just learning, I was trying to play that stuff, the stuff that I do now, but there were just more holes in it. But I just think of a halftime groove around 70 to 80 BPM. And that's like my Goldilocks zone. That's just where I like to live, in this like type area. And it's just I don't know how well the beatboxing will get picked up or how much sibilance there will be. Yeah, I would just play one of those beats or a shuffle beat I really like. I'm really into drum and bass now. But the thing is, when I'm at a drum shop, I never really just play. I always play at like some weird like uncomfortable volume I never actually play at, which is kind of just the code for drum shop playing. You always got to play as if you're the most like light-handed, like sophisticated, you know, pinky up type player. But yeah, it would probably be the Forrest beat, which I just think of as like the halftime ghost notey beat. That's like, you know, way over playing, way overdoing it.
Do one of your choices describe how you got that as a kind of your heart song, or do you have a reason why that is just the thing that tickles your fancy?
I don't know if any of those players do it exactly, because when I think about where I got that beat and that kind of thing, it was just from hearing and trying to play to the effect of certain players without knowing exactly what they're doing. And I think when it comes to that list, it's more like musical than like drumming specific influences. It's kind of things that maybe change the way I view music. But I would say the drummers that have influenced that would definitely be like Thomas Pridgeon and like Mark Juliana, Nate Wood, Keith Carlock, a lot of fusion cats, have inspired that. I'm trying to think if there's like any particular one, but it's hard to say because I would just play to a lot of instrumental hip hop and music, and I would want to keep the kick and snare, but I'd want the hi-hat to be talking. So that's kind of where I think the lyricism of the hi-hat comes from.
Okay.
But yeah.
And you kind of just explained my next question that I always ask guests is, what was your mindset going into this? So this was more of musical influences as a whole, as opposed to just what shaped you as a drummer. It's as a player, essentially.
Yeah, the ones that I picked, they were all kind of like milestone albums for me, and like either what I was listening to at these kind of points in my life, or albums that I listened to that made me want to make that kind of music for a while, or just kind of shaped the direction I would go. So that's kind of how I approached some of these records. And then I was really torn because I also want to be diverse, and I don't want to list like only one kind of music, even if that's what I was really into or what I'm into now. I wanted it to kind of try my best to encapsulate a lot of different types of stuff that I'm into throughout the years. So I tried to fit in the last like 15 years of influential albums within those 5 or so.
Great. Well, let's just hop into the first one. And before we go, are they in any particular order of how they were introduced to you, or is this pretty stream?
I think I tried to do an order. So yeah, the first one, Exit Stage Left, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I just became a drummer, and everyone was like, Neil Peart's the greatest drummer of all time. And I was just like, oh, word. So they're like, you got to hear these records. So I started listening to Rush immediately. And my sister's dad, Glenn Wilkeson, was a drummer, and he always wanted to show me Rush and like Led Zeppelin and the classic rock stuff. And when I got into Rush, I was just like, oh dang, this is like a trio. This is just 3 dudes. Like, that's so cool. And Neil has that huge kit, and all his parts are written so well. But the Exit Stage Left album was just like a CD that, like, my folks didn't listen to Rush, but for some reason we had this album in our CD changer. And I remember we had one of those rotating CD changers that could hold like 100 CDs.
100? Jesus, I had 6, but yeah.
Yeah, it was like a massive one or something. It could hold a lot of CDs. Like,
damn.
And I would just go and look at some CDs in there, or like just, browsing through the CDs we had right before file sharing was a thing. And I would just... I remember I found this. I was like, oh, Rush. People tell me to listen to that. So I put it on. Just like hearing the crowd and the musicians play, and there's no click track. It's all live. And still, the way some of these songs are played, to me, like Free Will is the definitive version for me. Like the live Exit Stage Left version. I think the mix is better. The feel is better live than even the record Permanent Waves, which is also one of my favorite Rush records. Super big into Rush guy over here, which probably is a huge red flag to anyone listening. But yeah, Exit Stage Left is a Desert Island album for me. Definitely one of my all-time favorites. And it's a crossroad record for them right before. It's like right after Moving Pictures, right at the end of their prog era in the 70s, right before they started doing a lot of super heavy synthwave stuff in the 80s. It's like right at 81. It's their entire prog catalog live, plus all the bangers off Moving Pictures. So that live album just hits it for me. I love that record. And just so influential for me. I put that one on still today with my bandmates in the Illustrated Violet, and we still trip out on that awesome record. So cool.
All right, here we go.
As a kid, I just liked this song. I didn't know I was playing in alternating time signatures. It's alternating 6 and 7 right here. And it's just so, the way they just drive through these alternating time signatures is so G. And every fill Neil does at the end of this right here is different. That pre-chorus fill.
Yeah, this is mixed really well.
It's incredible that it's live, and listen to the little intricacies in the hi-hat. There's a tiny pressure change. It's like not an open hat, and I've obsessed over this detail, but he changes the pressure in his hi-hat without actually opening it, and it's just the most subtle, tastiest thing on the hi-hat that I've only really heard Neil do. The Bonham fill.
Yeah, schlibble.
Yeah, he's like referencing all the classic rock fills, and that's what I love about Neil. He's so well studied.
Yes. Yeah, this I can't get over sonically how this sounds.
Right? It's live. Wait till the solo. It gives me chills every time, the guitar solo in this one. This fill right here.
So cool.
Like it's his feel, the way he's pulling back, like it's
yeah,
just
that fill
trippy.
kind of like slowed time down.
It really
for a
did.
second.
It really did. And the lyrics are so sick in this song. Probably the smartest thing Neil could have done was own the lyrics and songwriting as a drummer.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's very
Galaxy
smart of
brain
him.
move, yeah.
Yeah.
Although they were just friends and it wasn't like a thing. Also, that fill, I don't know if you want to play it again, is
Sure, yeah.
insane.
Let me back up a little bit.
Like, listen to this hit. Yeah, it's this next one coming up.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's insane. It's just like, I love that they just jammed that out.
Wow. I need to go down that. I've never heard that performance of that song.
Oh, dang, that's cool. Yeah, it's one of those where I always like come back to it. Like I hear the radio version and I'm like, it sounds thin. I don't know what it is. It sounds thinner somehow. Although the tones are great, it's recorded great. It's better, like maybe sonically, but there's so much energy in that live one that is very tangible. You're just like, holy shit, they're all just going off the whole time during that solo. Odd times, the fills keep changing and getting more complex. And one thing about Rush that they do live is they have these insane tags in the end where they do some crazy odd time hit or slowdown. That's not on the record. It's only for live. And just love that kind of detail to songs. But yeah, I could go on and on about that record. So
Yeah, that was, everyone always says when someone's doing a solo, everyone else should back up to give the guy room or give the girl room. But they're all three going crazy at the same time and it still works. So
yeah, they
good
wrote
for Rush.
Parts that just weaved in and out and left space. And like, yeah, you could tell they had a lot of jam time together.
Yeah, they're very tight. All right, number 2, You, Me, and the Mountain, released year's 2008. The artist is Maps and Atlases. Song choice, and Ted sent you, but we can do whatever. And the drummer's Chris Haney.
Yeah, Chris Haney, and he's like a huge photographer now on
awesome.
Instagram, which is cool. But yeah, a little context. I was really into this band called Tokyo Police Club, and they're like an indie band. They're kind of like the Canadian Strokes, but more like raw. And they had really cool lo-fi drum breaks. And the singer was doing an acoustic set, and he's wearing a shirt that said Maps and Atlases. And I was like, oh, I like the singer. I'll look up the band. And I looked it up, and the video comes up, and there's a guitarist with both hands on the fretboard. And I was just like, oh, this dude's like tapping. And this is kind of like, after this, the YouTube algorithm just started recommending me math rock. So it was kind of the very first math rock band I ever heard. I I think the very first song was Every Place is a House, which is a wild, tappy song. And You Mean the Mountain is more of a folksy kind of math rock song. And I don't know any band that has this type sound, and it's pretty cool. And I got to see this band a couple times as well. One of my favorites. But yeah.
All right, here we go. Here's Ted Zanka.
And the drummer's playing that glockenspiel at the same time in a live video. So he's playing that and the drum part.
Oh, wow.
Just at the intro, yeah. Yeah, I love the mix on this too. The drums have a great lo-fi sound. It just sounds, I don't know, like you could find this on an old tape and just be like, when is this from? Tonally, it sounds like it could be from the 60s or 70s. Effects-wise, it's just
it could
clean.
be like a Can song or something.
Just clean. I love how blown out the drums are too.
Totally.
And the way he's playing, listen for the rim, how he's playing that. And if you want to hear something more breakneck, the album before this, Trees, Houses, and Swallows, is insane. It is like a more punk rock version of what we just heard. It's just like way more aggro, and that was the first one I heard. But this album is probably one of my favorite math rock records because it's just got a tone that's unique to itself. It's like a fantasy. It sounds like it's out of like some old-timey book.
Totally.
Or some fantasy script book or something. I don't know. It's just completed vibe and very original.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to number 3 because I do want to get a few of your honorable mentions in as well. So number 3, Total Life Forever, release year's 2010. The artist is Foles. And a song that we've chosen, we might choose a different one, is Afterglow, but the drummer's Jack Bavin.
I believe so.
All right.
Bavin. I'm not sure.
Bavin. Jack, we love you. I'd love to have you on the show, man. You're a great drummer. I've seen so many live videos of Foles. An ex-roommate of mine is the biggest Foles fan.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could start the song. It's a pretty long song. And this song's like a total slow burn. And it's just a build. The whole song is a great build. The setting is so post-apocalyptic. I love it. And this album I listened to on a long car ride with headphones, and I was gonna go visit family for Thanksgiving, and this album I remember just getting lost in and listening to front to back, like again and again on like a 6-hour car ride. And the production and the way everything sounds and how every time I listened to it I could pick out a new layer, and like just the production on this kind of set up a standard for me where I was just like, dang, I want to do something that sounds like this.
Yeah.
And it's a great combination of moody, dark ambience and also syncopation, trance, math rock, like such a cool mix of sounds. It's like dancier, syncopated Radiohead or something. And yeah, this album was my favorite for a whole year, and I couldn't stop talking about it. And it really was important to me because when I heard this album, it kind of brought me back to Rush, where I just liked the songs and I liked the band, and it wasn't about the drum part, or like it wasn't about the individual parts. It was about how everything functioned as a whole. And after I heard this record, I really cared about music more, and not just the drums, as corny as it sounds, but it really made me care about like the unit, the full unison sound of a band, and how cool that could be. And I didn't know it, but it also kind of like I think first introduced me to really good production that I would care about, and sound design, and like just like good quality sounds, because math rock is often made in someone's bedroom, and you know, you may not know it, you like the patterns or the songs, but you're actually getting into lo-fi, and you know, into like, you're kind of getting your ear accustomed to that sound. So I was used to all this lo-fi math rock bedroom stuff, and then I heard this and I was just like, holy shit, this is so deep. But yeah, it's an amazing record. Every song on it is a banger. Yeah, this build right here this is where it drops. Really cool breakdown.
Nice.
Such a simple and tasty break. And then this. It's like a live trance EDM band now. The tones on this, that guitar is so juiced. Oh my goodness.
All right, so number 4, Silent Earthling, released year is 2016. The artist is Three Trapped Tigers. Sorry, the album was Silent Earthling. The artist is Three Trapped Tigers. The song is Ingram, and Adam Betts, who has been on the show. He's a friend of the pod, very nice guy. So stoked to always see his name on the list. Oh yeah, insane drummer. So yeah, let's talk about it, and then we'll play a little bit.
Yeah, so I heard it was kind of a crazy timing for me for this record, because I already like Three Trapped Tigers, and I was on my first tour with Covet as the merch guy in 2016. And I just wanted to help him out and, you know, spend a month traveling across the country with a rock band. I thought that would be cool. And then my first day on that tour, this album dropped, and we listened to it in the van together. And I remember on the spot, I thought this was one of the coolest records, and it was weird. It made me like hopeful for the future of music. I was like, yo, this thing sounds so crazy. And it was in the shittiest van speakers. It was this really like just burnt Astro van or something, and or a Twin Star, I forget the name, but
yeah.
And it still sounded amazing in there, and that blew me away. And still to this day, I've never heard a record sound like this or a band sound like this. So shout out Adam Betts, amazing playing. I can't get over this record. One of my all-time favorites. Every song on it is killer. The synth tones. This would be a huge inspo for me for the future of WØLFY. Before I even knew it and was into like drum and bass and synth, they were kind of curating a lot of that stuff that I would kind of be into now. And I heard this record way back before I even like got into as much electronic and synth-driven music. But yeah, they performed some of these songs at Arctangent, and that was like the first and last time they've performed. I think in like 2 or 3 years or something, it was the first and last time they performed. I don't think they're going to be dropping anything soon, or I think they're just focused on other things. But you know, shout out Colossal Squid, shout out Adam Betts solo stuff. Huge fan. I got to watch him open up for Covet like every day in the UK, and that blew my mind. It was such a treat to watch that, and I would try to sit, you know, behind him side stage or whatever every chance I could. And yeah, this record, I really want to make a WØLFY record that captures this kind of synth and drone and like power and heaviness all at once without being, you know, entirely derivative. But I don't know, if anyone knows another record that sounds anything like this, let me know, because this thing is just still one of my favorites this many years later, and I bump it all the time whenever I need inspo.
Awesome. Well, here we go. Here's Engrams.
Yeah, the EP3, the song 11 was another huge one.
Okay.
Another big song by this band that I was just like, I don't know, I never heard Crazy Odd Times works so well, and I think most of this album's in 4, but it has some crazy ones. The tones, I can't get over the synth tones, they're so juicy. The way their structure works, how they could just play these floaty, dreamy riffs one after the other. Now this beat, listen how symmetrical the snare pattern is on the front and back half. It's like a palindrome. The way this beat works over this is so trippy to me. Yeah, there's a really dope, I guess, is that the last one on the list?
We have one more.
Mm-hmm.
It is Planetary Prince by Cameron Graves.
Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorite jazz fusion records. Has some of my favorite musicians on it, and I think at the time, Kamasi Washington's The Epic just dropped, which is like a huge album. And I believe Cameron Graves was his piano player. And this was the stuff that he was cooking up on his own with some of the members of Kamasi's band. Anyway, it's a really cool mix of like heavy funk. It's like a mix of metal and jazz in an American way, because the only other person I've heard make stuff kind of like this is like Tigran Hamasyan, who combines like kind of Meshuggah rhythms, Armenian folk, and jazz. And this kind of like, when I first heard this, I thought, oh shit, it's like American Tigran. Not to be one for one, but I just thought, oh cool, it's heavy jazz, you know, with my favorite musicians on it. So huge record for me. I love this one. A lot of cool odd times. I loved the drum sound and the performance. The reason this picking these albums was so hard for me is because I'm very much an album guy. I listen to albums top to bottom daily. I don't even think about it. I don't even think about listening to songs individually. I put on an album and I just go top to bottom and then the next album. And that's just kind of how I've listened to music for a while, that I don't even consider that that's a preference.
Was that maybe growing up with like vinyl in the family, or was it just always taught to you to start from one and just go?
I was more into vinyl. I'm not as into vinyl lately because I like a lot of electronic stuff and there's just not as much low end. And but for like a minute I was collecting anything with John McLaughlin or Chick Corea on it, and I would spin that to just vibe to at home. And I got anything with Billy Cobham on it too. I'd also like try to get, but yeah, nowadays it's mostly through just like YouTube or Apple Music. Yeah, mostly those. And because I have YouTube Premium, I just let that run. And because yeah, that's the thing, is Apple Music doesn't have as good of a algorithm for recommendations as Spotify does. Where like Spotify's like, we analyzed your brain patterns while you were sleeping and curated this playlist for you. Where like Apple Music's just like, you're listening to what you already know. And so I like going on YouTube and searching playlists because sometimes that algorithm will help me find something different. But yeah, I don't know. I think the reason why I like albums is because it gives me, it's jarring for me to even, when someone's passing the aux and I go from like one vibe to another, it could just be a whole lot. So it's almost like a sensory thing, I guess. I just like to be in one vibe at a time, unless I'm not sure what my vibe is and I need to, mix it up a bit. But yeah, I don't know. I just like the consistency of listening to an album top to bottom.
I love that. I mean, that's in many ways, that's the right way. There are very little arguments against that. So
yeah, and one thing I would recommend people trying to their favorite records is starting halfway through and listening to it from that point on, or trying to hear it from a different vantage point, because sometimes you'll think you really like a record and you just like the first 3 songs, you know.
Just start with side 2 if you're listening to vinyl or something.
Kind of, yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll do that with my favorites. I'm like, I really like this record. I'm going to listen to it from the midpoint on, so my full focus is on that middle point instead of on the first couple songs, and then my brain kind of wanders, which is another part of my listening that I've noticed is I listen to jazz when I want my mind to wander, and when I want my brain to go multiple places. That's usually when I listen to jazz. But if I want to actually get anything from it, I need to watch it. I need to watch jazz or someone play it or swing to really get what I'm looking for. But
Great. Yeah. All right. So you wrote down the song Diablo, but is that still a good way to go? I know you just said...
Yeah, it's a dope song. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, here we go.
Yeah, I was at the album release party for this. Craig Robinson was the MC, and he announced the band. And I remember I'm standing front row, and if you go on YouTube and look up this album release, you'll see me in a striped sweater in the front row, just standing there and vibing. And Eric Moore was there, standing right behind Ronald with his phone out, just like recording him. And behind him was Grego Borlai. And I was just like, dang, this is the drum hangout here.
Ronald being the drummer, Ronald Bruner Jr.
Ronald Bruner Jr., yeah. When I say Ron, I really don't mean anyone else. The thing is, for a jazz record, almost never is my favorite drummer on my favorite record, except for this one. And that's why it gets this spot, is because that's such a rare thing for me. I almost never like my favorite album as much as my favorite drummer. They're separate,
Yeah.
That's what I figured out when I listened to Total Life Forever. I was like, oh, I have 2 different interests now. One of them is like a drumming thing that's outside of music and its own drummy worldness. And then there's music, which is a separate thing. But yeah, this is one of the few records where they both get a jam. Yeah, and my buddy Andy Prado, I think, is currently working with Cameron Graves. Aaron Haggerty.
Oh, yeah.
Also got to work with him, and it was cool. I just finished the Covet record, FLRS, my first one, and I was in New York, and Winter Jazz Fest was happening. And I'm in my bass player's sister's apartment, and I was like, oh shit, Winter Jazz Fest happening. Where's that going down? It was going down the street. And I see my friend Aaron Haggerty's there, and I'm like, yo, West Coaster out here? I was like, hey dude, what's up? Are you going to Jazz Fest? He goes, yeah bro, I'm playing with Cameron. Want me to put you on the guest list? I was like, yeah. So I just like gotta go in and like show up. It was day of. I didn't have any plans for this. So I just gotta show up, and I see like Ron was playing, Cameron Graves was playing, Thundercat played, Justin Brown's band played. It was like the Pantheon, and it was so cool. I just did my first like legit studio record. Yeah, and then I got to go see this in real life, and I was just like, oh dang, I don't know, it felt like it's a very cool moment in that it felt like I felt like I was doing something, like I just completed a chapter. I just did my first record. Then I went to go see my favorite live jazz band. It's a good time.
Yeah, those situations, it's like the world tapping you in the back saying like, you're on the right path. You were supposed to be right here, right now. How have I not heard of Ron before? What the hell?
He's Thundercat's brother.
Oh.
His older brother. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like the whole Gospel Chops era, I feel like the spotlight was heavily on like Eric Moore and Thomas Pridgeon, but Ron was there, and he was like the most low-key one, but I always thought his phrasing and feel is just so goated. It's just so different and more, to me, he just sounds the most studious. Like he has the most Novak and Vinny, and like he's really just pulling from so many drummers. Like honestly, if you just put Billy Cobham and Dennis Chambers together, you'd have he's a great step in the lineage of jazz fusion drumming. So like Billy Cobham, Dennis Chambers, Ronald Bruner, Mike Mitchell is kind of how I see that like jazz fusion drummer tree. So yeah, I got to go out to New York, watch this be played. I saw the album release. Super into this record. It kind of woke me back up to being into jazz and liking the arrangements and then the riffs, not just like, that's the thing when you're a jazz listener, you like the player and you almost just like what they do, and you kind of like, it's a different way of listening to where you want to get in their brain and see how they think. When you're listening to jazz is how, you listen to how someone thinks. And then on this one, there's riffs and there's like hooks, and like I just thought everything was done so well to where I like the song, the composition as much as the playing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for everyone listening, Aaron Haggerty has been a guest on the podcast, so go listen to Aaron's episode as well. Really good insight there. So that was your Big Fat Five. Now I do want to go into at least two of your honorable mentions, and so I'm just going to pick the top two because you did actually kind of mention one of them a few minutes ago, but let's go to Strobes. The album's Broke Speak, and the drummer is Joshua Blackmore. So yeah, go ahead.
So this is one of my favorite albums of that year. I think it came out the same year as Planetary Prince, and these were like the two albums I would just flip-flop between. And Strobes is a side project of Three Trap Tigers, the keyboard player's side proj, and this album is a master class in tuplet and subdivision, where it's a trio. Every song is in some crazy timey-wimey tuplet. The whole band just flows and grooves together, and like it's so cool. If I were to suggest a song, I would say Broke Speak. Again, the whole album is dope, and if you like any of the sounds from Three Trap Tigers, you might like this. And they're just doing stuff with time signatures and modulation that I don't hear any band do, and it's like entirely its own vibe, very different from Three Trap Tigers, which is heavier, and this is just like more noodly and more time, like just time craziness. But yeah, they're really, really dope. Joshua Blackmore, the drummer, super underrated. He made his own solo record that is inspired by this, that is also very tuplety, that you should check out. I forget the name of it, but yeah, just Joshua Blackmore.
Okay. Well, let's just listen to Broke Speak real quick, and then...
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, does this feel crazy?
Yeah. I want to bob my head, but I have no idea what the hell I am.
I know. Yeah, you bob, and then you hear like the snare on the beat, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way he's lining up the bass line with the rims, but he's playing dotted eighth notes, so it's kind of like, just feels weird. Ooh, it's so held back, I can't. Yeah, I love the space in this one.
Yeah. So would this be a record you'd put on to get out of your head or just kind of let your mind float? I know you said jazz, but with this...
Yeah. When I need to supercharge my ADHD brain on a short drive to the practice studio, yes, I will go for something like this or Tigran Hamasyan or something very notey in a short amount of time. Or if I want to let my mind wander, it'd probably be a longer drive where I'll listen to like, I don't know, maybe something like Boards of Canada, something very ambient or jazz, or something dronier.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that song gets freaking crazy, dope time signatures, crazy tight hits. If you want to hear something rhythmic, that record.
All right. Well, and you've mentioned Tigran Hamasyan many times or a few times so far. So let's listen to the record Shadow Theater. And this is a drummer that I want to get on the podcast so much, Nate Wood. So
yeah, the GOAT.
Yeah. Everything
Everything Nate Wood does, I'm a massive fan of. From Knee Body, I've seen multiple times. I've gotten to see For, his solo project, and it was kind of funny. It was right after I did another covet record. I was in New York, and he was playing at the New Blue, and my buddy Chris Paprota, another amazing drummer, his band Narbot was opening for him, and I was like, what? I got to see my friend and Nate Wood play tonight. And at one of those shows, I remember at one of the shows I saw Nate, I asked him, like, yo, like, what was it like working with Tigran? And he said something like, everything I know about odd times or something I learned from Tigran. And I was just like, I don't know, Nate, he's a deep cat. And I feel like when he's talking to me, I'm really trying to listen and be on the level to receive, because he's just galaxy brain. It's so cool that him and Ben Wendell of Knee Body are both on this record, and they complement Tigran amazingly, and the way they weave in and out of time signatures is so cool. My favorite song might be Alternate Universe. Okay. or Collapse. Both those two are great. Drip is great. Honestly, this whole record, every song is dope. But yeah, Alternate Universe is cool.
I like that phrase you've used a few times, galaxy brain. It's pretty cool. All right, here's...
I'm just memeing.
Yeah, exactly. Here's part 2, Alternative Universe.
Yeah, the way Nate feels this is so cool. You could feel this as eighth notes or dotted eighths, and Nate does the dotted eighth, which is like a parallel time signature on top of this 11. I sound like such a hipster trying to describe this, but... The time there on the right is insane too. Whatever he's doing. Nate's one of those acquired taste drummers for me, where I didn't get it because I was only into really flashy, over the top playing. Now that feel change is sick right here when it snapped into this. You got to think of that previous feel. It's the same riff, but put that feel he just played on top of it, and that's what I'm saying. It's like a different one. See, now he's back. Ah, that's so cool, that change. Shit.
God, I can barely play the instrument.
We all can. We all can barely perceive music in comparison to Tigran. And then it's cool. This is the third feel over this time signature he's put. And I really like the way the shuffle feels over it. I really want a synth album from Tigran. I'm dying for him to just get a Korg mini log and do a whole record on that.
Yeah.
I love how snappy this shuffle feel is with the odd time.
What a great performance.
And Nate Wood's so locked in and tight. So yeah, one time I was in the car with Chris Paprota driving home from NAMM. He was playing this Wayne Krantz jam or something, and I was just listening, staring out the window, and then it just hit me like a ton of bricks, just how insane and precise the feel was, because I don't know why it just never hit me. And then it was like I woke up out of a dream, and I was just like, holy shit, this is a person. And I was just like, this is crazy how accurate it is, and how the feel, the like tone and temperament of his playing is so controlled, and just he's such a transparent player, and the way the music comes through, it's just so cool the way he can drive and improvise and play a part. And also, every time I've seen Nate Wood live, his timing scares me, like to the molecule. It's so accurate. And I've seen only a couple cats whose time where they just play a straight time beat, and I'm terrified, and that's Chris Dave and Nate Wood. And both of them, like, they'll just play a straight time beat that's slow, and I'm just like shaking. I'm just like, how? Like, I could never.
Yeah.
I would have to be playing at least 4 times as many ghost notes to play that slow.
Yeah, space is fucking scary, man.
It is. Yeah, Nate's the GOAT.
All right. Well, this is your chance to do some self-promotion. I know it's everyone's favorite thing, but you do have some projects that you've mentioned a few times so far. So this is your platform. People can check you out, and then I'll let you get on with, I'm assuming, your busy day.
Alrighty. So WØLFY 3 is a thing coming out very soon. It's already mixed. I'm just putting like finishing touches, making sure the art's cool. But WØLFY 3 is going to drop, and not only that, but I'm trying to be able to drop singles like consistently, because I'm sitting on over 30 tracks that I've just been mixing. I've been upping my whole production game the past like 3 months, trying to become a better engineer. So that's all I've been focused on. So this is the year of the wolf, and there's just going to be WØLFY stuff dropping all the time. So WØLFY 3, and then trying to do regular singles throughout the year. I also got a record with this artist Bobbing, who's an amazing just producer, songwriter. Check out his album called Mixtape. It's one of my favorites, most listened to records last year, and we did a live loop to tape jam where we did a bunch of like kind of math rocky sounding loops and just improvised it all to tape, and then cut our favorite moments together. And it's a little EP we made that's coming out soon. I have like a new drum and bass project with this artist, Monochrome Sweatsuit, and we're going for just like super aggressive drum and bass meets shred vibes, and it's kind of aggro, kind of dark, a little like kind of funny, an Adult Swim vibe sometimes.
Okay.
But so I'm doing that. Of course, the cover album's going to be coming out very soon, and that one sounds really dope. I have another project, the Illustrated Violet, that's also going to be dropping some stuff soon. We just dropped actually a live EP of us playing a bunch of songs we've written and had been performing the last 5 years. We did them all live. All the audio is one take, and sometimes I just have too many things.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!